Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining me on this inaugural edition of Confessions of Being a Woman. My name is Monica Chantel Boglin, your host and fellow confessioner. We're going to have to come up with the hashtag on what we are, you know, to kind of get this blog off the ground and get it going. Let me first say that this blog, and starting out with my first confession, as the hashtag says, Black girls get molested too. It's such a long time coming. And the reason for that being is nothing spectacular. I'm sitting in an apartment at the couch, light, YouTube video recording, that's it. The long time coming has been my ability to be able to develop enough of a strength and a self-regulatory perspective on what this thing is that's been weighing on me heavy for over 30 years. Okay. I wanted to create a space where women, specifically Black women and other women of color, could escape the burdensome, feudal, archaic notions that bad things that have happened to us, that we are resilient in, that we do survive physically, have to be kept as secrets, swept under the rug, put in the closet, no one talks about them, and that does nothing for your spirit but slowly kill it every day. I wanted to make sure that people had a platform, a space, and a place where they could come and confess what they needed to, specifically the hurts and the harms that every woman goes through in life. But again, I'm a Black woman, so I've got to hold it down for myself, my community, and other women of color. We are the most marginalized, disrespected, unheard, invisible entities on earth. And I want to do my job to help eradicate that. So, with that being said, my strength is nothing that happens overnight. My molestation story happened over 30 years ago. I plan to give my experience and to get through that as best as I can. And the educator in me is then going to follow up with where I did a little bit more of my research to that helps compound why it's taken me over 30 years for me to even develop the strength that I have, let alone to be able to find places that will hear us, let alone help us. Okay. We've got to get away from secrets. Secrets is no more than a lie that no one really wants to speak. Or it's a lie that's developed a really good cloak. You know, they're first cousins. Secrets and lies are. You know, the truth is not a secret. The truth is not a lie. The truth is the truth. A secret about the truth is a secret. You're purposely omitting something. A lie about the truth is a flat out action against the truth. You're committing the actual action of not telling the truth. So when you speak truth, when you have the courage, finally enough to speak it, whether anyone else is going to hear you or not, but to speak it and push that negative energy out of your spirit and out of your being, the more you do it, it's like an exercise, like anything else. You want to lose weight, you need to hit your gym. You need to monitor your calorie intake. You need to da 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 da. Exercising and getting those emotional muscles as strong as they possibly can be, you got to put in the work. It's not going to be cute. It's not going to be pretty. It ain't going to be a bed of roses. The hurt has already happened. So just like exercise, people complain about, oh, this hurts and that hurts. No, it doesn't hurt. You're using muscles and parts of your body. that have lied dormant for too long, and you're challenging them to do the work. That's what you feel. So when you're speaking your truth, that's exactly what happens to your heart, your mind, your spirit, because the secrets have been there. The flat out lies have been there. You got to get this shit up out of your mind, your body, your spirit if you want to be healthy, happy, whole, and healed. Not perfect. None of us are perfect. Healthy, happy, whole, healed. Okay? A lot of these secrets and lies come from generations of people that they themselves have been taught to tell lies and to keep secrets. This was all of a way of, at least with black people, going back to our days of enslavement, as a way to, again, marginalize us and our pain as if it never happened. So if you speak the truth about something that happened to you, you were punished for it. If you did keep the secret about something that happened to you, you were punished for it. And that has become one of the single most threads of self emotional mutilation that black people have chosen to accept and adopt generation after generation after generation. And that shit has got to stop. It's stopping with me. I'm just not having no more of it in my life. It serves no purpose. I love myself enough to live happy, healthy, whole, and healed. Anything contrary to that, from any person, any place, any entity, anything, you take up no residence or space in my life. You don't serve a purpose. You're done. So I wanted to make sure that this blog spoke that to other women that are dealing with as much, if not way worse than what I went through and survived it. The healing process has got to happen when you begin to speak that truth, when you acknowledge it. And it's a daily work and walk and a path that you're going to be purposed to get on. My creator, I just thank him, her, it, whatever, for putting me on that path, pushing me onto it, because putting me on it would have not been enough for me to put one foot in front of the other and continue to do my own work, but pushing me on it. Even at times that I felt I wanted to stop, I didn't want to go this route. With my teaching years behind me, now researching counseling, knowing that I've heard tragic stories over the years, and it's just like, wow, I can't get away from this stuff. I didn't want to overly indulge in that work-wise because I didn't want to absorb any of it because I had my own pain, but I couldn't get away from it. So you're pushed. I was pushed onto this path, and this is just what it is. Um, Probably the secondary thing that motivated me to get the blog started was in light of the recent events of two more well-known figures in life that have come to prominence with their very ugly, bad, tragic deeds against primarily women of color. That would be Bill Cosby and R. Kelly, who will now names be forever synonymous with predators. And targeting specifically black women, not necessarily women in low income, because that is not a synonymous word. I came from a two-parent married household, upper middle class income, um, successful in both of their occupations, not necessarily academically excessively um, credentialed, but they got to the top of their respective occupational fields and held their jobs and raised their families for 20 or 30 years and are now both fully retired, and although still don't nurture or parent me enough to speak these truths, um, they, in their reckoning, have lived their American duty. You know, you get up, you get grown, you get a job, you get married, you have your kids, you raise your kids, you da 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 da, you get retired, you're doing the grandparent thing, blah blah blah. All that's fine and it looks good on paper. Um, but I come from a family of abusers of many different shapes and forms. many different shapes and forms. And no job and no money and no car and no house and no nothing that you buy and spend time and energy into externally will ever remove some of the emotional ills, psychological ills, mental ills that I've seen my own family maneuver through generationally. With that being said, the R. Kellys and the Bill Cosbys of the world are just who they are, regardless of a celebrity status. Predatory behavior is predatory behavior. It's got nothing to do with being a celebrity. Nothing. And I want to commend those women, if any of them ever get a chance to watch this. The producers, specifically of the R. Kelly, Surviving R. Kelly documentary from Lifetime. If this ever gets around, circulates to any of them, they have been the single most inspirational thread that I pulled this year to get this done. Because if those women can tell their stories in front of millions on a nationally syndicated show, then I can sit my ass down on a laptop and do what I need to do for YouTube. Stop procrastinating about it and stop worrying about what the blowback is going to be. I also needed to make sure that I was in a headspace where I can tell it where it was most raw for me. And I've been putting it off too because I've had days that, yes, I would think about it and I would sit down and get too analytical about it. Like I've done some research on numbers that I'll speak at the end of the blog regarding just facts and statistics and data that's out there with regards to sexual violence with Black women specifically. Doing that research, I was getting and preparing to do this, I was just getting way too analytical about my story. And I didn't want it to come off fake, false, or scripted. So I got up this morning and did my little running around that I needed to do. And in the middle of getting my breakfast on at IHOP, just the wash of this shit comes out of nowhere. I was not even doing any research. I was on my phone doing something else. And just the speck of a memory of whatever it is came across. So I don't even know what triggers it. And then I allowed myself to sit there and get into the thought. And it's going to come up periodically. So work with me, you guys. And I got into the thought of any one particular thing that had happened. And that grief come over me again. I can't say it's a depression because I'm no longer suppressing anything, that wants to come out or really overly sad or whatever. I say it's a grieving because it's still me now at my almost 46-year-old self. Grieving and hurting for that little 10, 11, 12-year-old girl when this happened to me that I couldn't help. I had no environment, no parenting, no community, no skill set, no nothing around me to help me. And part of me now as the adult feels so guilty. Knowing that there's nothing, and logically I know that there's nothing I could have done back then any more than what I did, which was just to get through it. Just part of me I feel so bad at times that this happened to me. Like it's not nothing that I feels that it was not supposed to happen to me. But the grief of that shit happening to me is there. Still there. And it probably always will be there. I told myself I got to do this and get it done. If I got some little emotion that's going to come up, let it come up on camera and let it do what it needs to do. Because when people see your real shit, you're more than likely to touch the people that you need to touch that are going through their similar real shit. Okay? Well, again, so I want to get through my experience and then I hope I don't venture too much off topic. Some of this may come out as a vent. Some tears may come, may not. The emotions definitely, though, is still there and it's raw. But when I'm having days and I'm feeling like this, very few and far between. And it comes and it'll be gone. It'll go away. For people who haven't done enough fortification on their self, your happiness, healthiness, wholeness, your healing. When you haven't done any fortification on that, I totally get now why people turn to alcohol and addiction. I get it. Um, Anything could be done recreationally, but the addiction comes in when you have no brakes on what you're doing. Not just about not having a filter. You got no brakes. You don't know when to stop. To the point that you're indulging and you can't stop. So that's you now, a chemically dependent person on whatever it is. People that are externally out here buying cars, clothes, got to constantly turn up, got to this, and just running like a fucking hamster on a wheel. And you have no idea who you are. You've never done that work, and you really and truly don't love yourself. That's not to weaponize any of that, but you don't love yourself because you never learned how. You've been expecting other people outside to do it for you, and as children, that's what we're taught. You're dependent on everybody else to do whatever for you. But at 46 years old almost, I will not allow myself to even be around people that don't know that they're 46 years lived long on this earth, and your behavior has not managed itself, regulated itself, grown, expanded itself past being 8 years old or 18, or whenever you learn the behavior and whenever you shut down and stop learning new behavior. I just will not do it because I can't. I deal in that professionally speaking. In my personal life, it's a wrap. When I see that's where you are, you don't love yourself. It's constant negative, toxic energy, jabs. You weaponize words, things. You're emotionally, mentally abusive, and you're taking on the traits of those that have abused you, but you don't know and you don't think what you're doing is abusive. That's where the dysfunction comes in. And anybody that participates in that willfully, thinking you can change this person, it ain't your job to do nothing about a person that's hate-filled, that's abusive, that's this. It ain't your job to do that. And you didn't have to survive through that and get through it because of them. Do that. But it ain't your job to fix these people. You got to fix yourself. That's enough work. That's enough work. And it's time consuming. But I do know this. I'm constantly giving all of me to someone else because their attention seeking constantly needed. And they got to get that stimulation, that validation. They got to constantly feel fulfilled because they don't do the work to fill themselves up. That shit is exhausting. I can't be around nobody else that is constantly draining me. Those are emotional vampires, right? So if you seen vampire movies, I'm a fan of the mysticism, like witches and mystical stuff like that, and werewolves. I watch that. I'm not really a vampire girl, but I do know that vampires only suck the life out of people. They only take life, suck all your blood out, and that's what they have to have in order for them to survive. And if it comes to other vampires, push and shove to them, they kill another vampire to keep from any type of self-demise. So you got emotionally vampiric people that are out here. They're walking around shells of themselves. They're empty inside completely. Not their fault. Somewhere along the line, they did make a choice not to do the work. With that being said, I hope this is a video that makes its way to any people like that that you guys may know. Share it with them and share your story. But I urge any of you, if you are still in an environment, relationships, parental, sibling, grandparents, boyfriend, married, neighborhood, community, if you are around anything that is not healthy, get the fuck out. Get away. You ain't got to change nobody else. You ain't got to do shit. You change you. Change your job, change your address, change your weave, change your this, your that, or whatever. Get all the way the fuck away. I moved to different cities. I moved to states. I now 6 months and moved across country from Florida to Washington State. And I realize now that my life has been on that type of a move like every 2 to 3 years. Work or something is requiring me to physically uproot. And I don't mind it because military people and people that travel do it all the time. I want to soak up as much of a life as I can in this one lifetime. If that means seeing different parts of the country, hopefully different parts of the world, so be it. So be it. And if that means leaving the dust behind me, when I find myself now, people and their shit is creeping up close to me or on me, no, we're done. I don't expect nobody to be perfect, but I do get a choice at this stage of my life to determine who and what I will allow in my life. And I can only bring it up to certain people once. Like, I'm not an enabler. I'm never going to look at you and say your alcoholism is okay, your addiction is okay. It's okay for you. It's not okay for me. And I know that's not something you can turn on and off. So whatever reason you're hurting, you're not healthy, you're not happy, you're not whole, sweetie, I do know that your addiction and your alcoholism is not helping you. And if you can't hear that one time from me, you ain't got to worry about it hearing it no more. I'm out. You're done. Blocked, deleted, gone. I will not ever need anything else other than my life than me and what I bring to my life. I will never not allow myself to be the single most important thing in my life, ever. If I can't fill me up and make me happy and be my own best friend and keep my ass company and take myself to the mall and to dinner and go shopping and a movie and on vacation and hell, pull the vibe out and handle that business down there. If I can't do none of that for myself, nobody else is going to come into my life and in my space and take up space to do those very minute things for me, but bring all this drama with you. You're done. That ain't about being perfect. It's about being whole. And I can't condone brokenness in myself. I don't allow it. Cracks will be there. Yeah, I'm 15 years surviving lupus. I do know that ignorance is a disease. I do know that the social ills in life that everybody pretends to not deal with every day is a disease. Alcohol and addiction is a disease. I got one disease. I don't need no more. That's just what it is. Keep yours. I'm going to keep mine. With that being said, that's the vent that I was in is probably going to want to come out. So there it is. My motivation. Um, let's get on to some of the aspects of my personal story. As the title says, hashtag Black girls get molested too. I was molested around the ages, on and off between the ages of 10 and 12. It was not an all the time thing, not an everyday thing, very random. And now that I know, it was coercive. And it's a very strong manipulation tactic that predators learn wherever they learn it, whenever they learn it, and on the people who haven't learned it, which is why you become their prey. Okay? It happened, and my predator, the abuser, was my eldest brother, older brother, only brother that I, at least within my mom and dad's marriage. Brian Lopez Boakland. For those of you who know him, Birmingham, Alabama, he's still residing around there somewhere. That's what it is. My last name is a very unusual, weird last name. And it's just a small cluster of those Boglins left running around parts of Alabama. But Birmingham is my home, where I grew up. Fairfield specifically. All of my high school years, middle school years, in and around that, and then in and around a little bit of like the Ansley area, Winona, um, I don't know, Roebuck, Center Point area, maybe a little bit in Bessemer here and there, So if you hear that name, then good possibility that we're probably all related distantly some kind of a way. Don't fuck with nobody, hardly, really, no more, because nobody's growing up. Alcohol addiction, stupid, ignorant bullshit all day, all long. I'll see you in another 5 or 6 years if you still sitting on your porch doing bullshit, talking shit, ain't doing shit. Then okay, I'll dip you there 5 or 10 minutes, throw the deuces up, whatever funeral or wedding or some other obligated shit I feel the need to go to. I'll holler at you when I'm there. When I ain't there, see you in another 5 years, and you can try to fit in whatever other bullshit you're doing between now and then, but I'm done. I'm gone. Right? So, yes, my older brother molested me, and it stopped twofold reasons. I was beginning my period, and because of that, I would not allow him to approach me. Um, and then I felt he was beginning. I don't know if it ever happened. She won't have the conversation with me again. The way that you shut down emotionally, um, and then it does trigger whatever things you got going on mentally and psychologically. But my younger sister, I just stopped several years ago trying to get it out of her. She wouldn't talk about it. Um, but I had a, um, concern that if he couldn't get to me, he was going to target her. So I did what I needed to do to try to put a stop to it. I'll tell that in a second. So let me get on with the story. I don't want the video to be too long, but I want to get through it and get most of the facts out. So what you do remember when you're telling these stories, this many years later, I realize now, it's spots of the memories that's there. So I don't know if I've blocked out the totality of what's happened, or my brain is just held on to the bits and pieces of the most egregious stuff, the most traumatic stuff. Okay. It was never any physical violence. There was never a rape. There was never penetration. There was never intercourse, sex. It was inappropriate touching, and kissing and fondling. So with molestation, you'll have to look up, and most people, again, I have to put that distinction out there, because at the time that I did try to tell this truth to grown ass men in my family within the last recent 5 to 6 years, my father, an uncle, and a great uncle, every one of them in their emotional and, at this point, I realized, cognitive ignorance, repeated what they thought I heard, and it spread amongst other men in the family. And I realized how cowardly predators really are. They teach behavior to other men, and can't account for the behavior, and won't do anything to stop the behavior and protect the women that you say in life you've taken on that burden to protect. My family doesn't do that. They talk shit about women. They gossip about women. They try to weaponize anything they can to keep women down and put women down and keep them in their place and all that shit, which is the reason why I don't fuck with a lot of them. They're cowards. My father included, George Bowen included. Booty, Flint, Josh Jr., whatever the fuck anybody around there knows him by. Yes, he's a coward. I've told him that more than one occasion when I've been angry, and I've tried to tell him in tears, like, you did nothing. Back then you were an alcoholic. You were not there for us, protecting us. And when I'm trying to tell you the story now, he did nothing but gossip about it to somebody else. Never confronted my brother about it, and has never spoken about it again to me. To ask me if I'm okay, if I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm whole, I'm healed. Nothing. So, behavior, I do know with predators, is taught and it's learned. And if you were taught it and you learned it, you could unlearn it by teaching yourself new behavior. The problem is with secrets and lies, things of this nature happen, and the sexual violence is an act of violence. The sexual um, trauma, the sexual inappropriateness, it's never about sex. It's about violence. It's about control. It's about manipulation. It's about whatever. It's about somebody thinking you're this small, and I gotta feel this big, so I need to do this one thing to you because it makes me feel better, more in control, more powerful. And you, quite naturally, without having the ability to yet develop your own skills of self-regulation, strengthening yourself, manage your own emotions, knowing when to say no, stop, and stand behind that, you feel powerless. And I think that's what I've been carrying me for a lot of years. I couldn't do anything about feeling powerless. What I did do when I got older was I had become an overachiever in everything that I did. And stressed myself out, put myself through a lot of undue pressure. Just thinking if I can do more, It would squash down the things that I was feeling, and it would make these unlovable, unnurturing, uncaregiving ass people who were abusing me my whole life, it would somehow make them love me. And the reality is, you can't expect an orange to give you apple juice. That's just not how that works. People are not wired to be self-regulating when it comes to nurturing, loving, and caregiving. Some people just aren't that because they've never cultivated those skills. So what they give you is what they got. And if what they got is negative, toxic, hate-filled, no love type shit, that's what you're going to get. And it ain't your fault to be born into a situation like that. No fetus ever asked to be born. It's not your fault to do that. I carried that around for a long time. That for any person, again, that's unfortified would do. You think it's your fault when it comes to any form of abuse, whether you're a child or adult going through it. Um, and I think I just have that grief that for so long I carried the burden of thinking that it was my fault. With that being said, I don't know what sparked it, what ignited my brother's interest in me specifically, but being the older of me and my sister by 2 years, or a year and 11 months, really. Um, I know that it was not nothing he was targeting me as his sister. Wasn't targeting me that. He's 3 years older than me. So this starts around me being age 10, he's 13. Well old enough to have had this talk about sex and this, that, and the other. But again, you're talking about my parents that didn't, my mother at least specifically, never had a talk with me. Ever. About sex. Even when it came down to me getting my period, and I'll explain that, the talk never happened. I got my father screaming some nonsense at to me when I was about 16, and he got wind that I invited a boy to the house, and the purpose was to have sex with him, but it would have been my first time attempt to lose my virginity, and I didn't go through with it. He shouted some nonsense at me, but again, a sit down talk about sex, the birds and the bees, and condoms, and birth control, and this, that, and other, no, none of that happened. So, again, going back to two alcoholic parents who they themselves were busy beating the fuck out of each other and misusing the fuck out of each other, hating the fuck out of each other, in the street on each other, relationships outside of their marriage on each other, and then you just gonna work and have a job and pay for this house and have these fucking kids in the midst of all that shit, and think anything positive is gonna come out of it. For majority of it, outside of the providing part of it, everything else in that household was bad, all bad. You looked apart. I thought you had on this clothes, and you better not go nowhere and say nothing and act up. You're going to get your ass kicked. You knew what was coming. You're going to show up in church on Sunday after they had been in the club Friday and Saturday, beating and knocking, as one of my aunts used to say, beating, knocking, and drinking. Knocking and beating and drinking. That somebody was doing something, beating somebody getting their fucking head knocked in, and somebody fucking drinking, toe up, and everybody fucking around on each other. Okay, outside of their relationships and their marriages. I just really don't go back into that city for a lot. I have absolutely no idea who I'm related to. Between my brother being a whore, my dad being a whore, my granddaddy being three known whores. And then they dick in how many different communities around there. I don't know who the hell I'm related to. And I don't need to know. If it ain't gonna help me with nothing lifestyle wise for me, I don't need to know. And I don't need to be back there to be in no situationship with nobody. And boom, oh, well, this your second or your third cousin, or this your your daddy, second or third uh, baby mama, son. I don't need none of that. I don't. And not gonna tolerate it. So, around the age of 10, I started to develop my breasts. And that filter there that should be there, you're having a positive talk with your kids about sexual anything. Um, I don't know what happened first. The talk was just casual about uh, being around cousins and stuff of ours and whatnot, and then the girls start talking about, you getting your titties and I want to start my period and you this and you that. Well, then the boys are talking about whatever the fuck they're talking about. Okay. And then we were just all so fucking rammed in together at functions and barbecues and sleepovers and all this kind of shit all the time. The conversations then start co-mingling. In my head as a girl, that's not me looking at my brother as anything sexual. That intimacy there and that bond there was definitely a brother-sister bond. People sometimes, when I've seen people over the years, they cannot compartmentalize the love that they have. As long as it feels good for them, they can't compartmentalize it. I do know that further research I put into that in the brain, the endorphins that are raised, the pain and pleasure sectors of the brain release the same chemicals in the brain. Dopamine releases the same chemical. Depends on what it takes to stimulate it to release it. So that can go a little bit further on the pleasure aspect of it. If you have a bond, you have a relationship, you got some kind of emotional something with somebody, some people don't have that button to push to say that love. And I actually had an ex-boyfriend tell me this. I tried to kind of get him to understand with how he related and acted with his mom was not cool with me. I'm your mother. I'm your woman. I'm not your mother. And then shit you're doing and saying with me is not going to be cool with her because she's your mother. She's not your woman. And he was actually able to tell me just like, well, that doesn't make sense. I love the both of y'all. You can't love the both of us the same because we're not the same. Love is love, true. But it's a different way to express, explore, and experience that love on different levels. So I think that some people don't know how to do that. And then that can kind of further go to when you're hearing people say that they have daddy issues or mommy issues. You look further into doing your work. I do it now professionally, but also for personal enlightenment. Two complexes that are out there that signify that mommy issues and daddy issues. One is the Oedipus complex with men who are in love with their mothers. The other one is the Electra complex with girls who are in love with their fathers. So that mother and that father is the first example of the man or the woman in your life as a child. So the love you're receiving from them, if it's unfortified and uncompartmentalized and not properly nurtured, people go through their entire life trying to replace that same love from the parental team to each one of their relationships. Okay? It can also be a clue as to why incestuous relationships happen. And that bond is commingled with those feel good feelings in the brain of what you got from the mother and the father. Then if that mother or father is no longer in the picture, then it can also explain a lot of why you spend a lot of time seeking it out because you're trying to replace it. I get it. It's a lot. And again, I try not to be too overly analytical about it, but I had, this is the work I've had to do to get my head wrapped around and understand this shit because I've had to do a lot to not self-harm, self-hurt myself, to not want to do that, and to come to an understanding that this can't just be me. This can't have just happened to me only. So I've been able to find out reasons why it happens. But, again, I just want to give my experience right now. So around that age, around 10 or so, going into 11, I'm developing my breasts. My brother was 13. That would put me at being 10. That would put my sister at being 8. We were back to back. So we're starting to kind of grow and get a little bit older. So as a 10-year-old kid, I'm starting to develop breasts. And I can remember speaking on it in different, just whatever, again, not sexualizing it in any way, but I do remember my parents had another couple that were their friends. We spent a lot of time at their house. And their 2 girls, I think it was 2 girls, the oldest girl was around my age, and the conversations with her, she began to tell me about her developing her breasts. And her mom had a cream that she would apply to her breasts to help form and grow and nurture the skin of the breasts, I guess. And I'm actually going to have to look and see if that shit actually existed, but it's in my head. May not be it, but it's in my head that it was called bosom cream. So I can remember just feeling so flat chested for whatever, but I'm wanting my breasts to start to grow. And nothing but some little nuggets are popping out. So I'm seeing other girls around me, and again, ignorant people around you. Oh, she's fast, she's this, she that, and that's why she's getting her breasts so early and all this kind of bullshit. Done with it. I just knew that I wanted to get my breasts so I can feel like a woman. I'm walking around flat chested tomboy. I wanted to feel like a woman. This was the signifier of being a woman. So that's what I wanted. And the better it could happen, the better off I thought I was going to be much happier. So I can remember on more than one occasion we would be at the house and we'd sneak into her mom's vanity in her bedroom, and I'd take this cream, and I remember applying it and rubbing it on and running out of the bedroom. And I remember one time we were going to get caught, so I was applying more to one side and I couldn't do the other. So I don't know if we got caught. I don't remember that conversation ever coming up with my folks though, but I don't know if it happened with my the girl. But I can remember something happened that I got only seemed to be getting more on one side, and it's still kind of that way today. That one of my breasts began to grow and actually show and form up before the other one did. And I'll have to look to make sure. I think it was the left one started to grow before the right did. Whatever. So that became like a running joke. So my parents had the tendency when they would go out with their friends or they were going out of town. At that age, my brother's 13, they were leaving us at home a lot with him. And they would go out overnight or for the weekend or whatever, and that was it. We were not alone because we lived in a neighborhood with maybe 10 houses on one side, another 10 on the other side. Go to the next street behind us, same thing. The next street in front of them. It was a neighborhood. We had a hospital up around the street from us. A college was a 5 or 10 minute walk away from us. We were in a neighborhood. So even them leaving and going out of town, it was we knew to call Miss So-and-so next door if we had a trouble. Call Mr. So-and-so across the street if we needed something. Call Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so next door if we needed something. So we were not in a ghetto neighborhood. We had families, mothers and fathers and dads in their homes doing their thing, raising their kids. Okay. So it was during this time that was a lot more of that going on. I guess he was old enough to be able to watch us by himself. It's just not going to be a problem, or so they thought. Um, and I can't remember even the very first incident, but just similar incidences and begin to happen. He, at that age at 13, is probably going through his boyhood adolescence thing at 13. And to culminate that with what I thought that I wanted to be going through as a young girl, and you're just left alone with no supervision. And he used to sneak and get my father's magazines that were either hidden in his truck, and I think at some point he was hiding them in different parts of the house, like in the bedroom or in a couch or some shit. I don't know. My brother got hold of him, and he would always come to, oh, I've got you guys. I got to show you something. Look at what I found. So it was always brought to us in a joke, in a this and a that. And they were my dad's Penthouse, Playboy, Hustler magazines, all that kind of shit. So I'm just looking at them, and again, all I know is I'm seeing these women with these breasts and this and that, and I want my titties. And I don't know where that went into my brother's head as him now not seeing me as a sister, but now I'm a sexual something. Because it never went there for me. It was never there for me. But him it was. He would sneak into a bedroom that my sister and I shared. He would sneak in there a lot at night. And then I remember at a time we were splitting bedrooms. And then around the same time, my parents added on to the house. And so they had a separate bedroom to the back of the house. And then I had my bedroom, my sister had hers, my brother had his. And I remember him sneaking into the bedroom, me alone in the bed, and in the dark, he just come in, just a lot of, hey, you awake, or this or that. And, you know, you remember that magazine that we looked at? And he would touch me. Like, you remember that picture we saw, and they did like that, and he touched her like that, and he would do that and joke about it and then leave. So he brought it to me in a joke, and then I began to respond to it jokingly. And that, in a predator's head, opens the door for them in their head to say that this is permissive. No one is giving me any information to say otherwise, that this is wrong. It shouldn't happen. This is your sister. Don't do that. This is wrong. This is your brother. Don't engage in that. Don't allow him to do it. He's your brother. You don't do that with your brother. That never happened. That escalated from that to him wanting to pretend that he had a camera and he wanted to take pictures of me posing like the women in the magazine. And I can't remember if it was a real camera, a toy camera, or something. I can't remember. But then he wanted him to pose with me in the bed, like the pictures in a magazine. And then some kind of a way he was able to get my sister into it, and she's supposed to be there taking pictures with the camera. And laugh and joke and ha ha he. And that's how that was started. He would kiss me on the bed, touch me breast, touch my vagina, my ass, just whatever. So it would be take your shirt off or take your clothes off and that kind of stuff. He would get unclothed. He would have an erection. What I know now is an erection. And he would rub his penis on my leg and different things like that, ask me to hold it, touch it, stuff of that nature. They would put it in between my legs, but I just do know that there was just no penetration. He didn't insert anything anywhere, well, not anywhere. He didn't insert anything in my vagina or my ass. There was no sexual intercourse. However, that did escalate to him further coercing me into stepping that up. And I'm thinking maybe this is how maybe he was on progression to do it. And again, it's not all one isolated incident, but through this span of about a year and a half to 2 years. I was developing my breast and all of that. And then I began to feel really self-conscious, because this is a whole new whatever for me, and that growing, and at school girls are getting teased, and you got on a training bra, and this horrible shit to live through, as any child will tell you if they reflect on it in a healthy way. So I began a lot to just really try to avoid him. So when I come into the bedroom, sometimes at night, I would just pretend to be asleep, and I wouldn't roll over, wouldn't touch, or I'd swat his hand away. Boy, leave me alone. Get out of here. Whatever. I remember doing that. So I think maybe he felt he had to then catch me where he could, because he began to come into the bathroom when I would take showers. And again, sneaking into the bathroom or doing whatever. My parents' bedroom at this point is on another part of the house. And we could almost like clockwork sometimes time them on after we had dinner. And then y'all clean up, y'all go to bed, y'all whatever. And they were off in their bedroom, door closed, and just in their own world. So it was just that thing like, oh, we added on a bedroom and an ensuite, a bathroom to the bedroom. It's like one of the first houses on the block to do that. So they were enjoying that. We were left alone, whatever. So at times I remember telling my dad this, and I remember telling him that most of the time it was happening during the time that they were on vacation, or they were leaving us, going out with their friends or whatnot, and they weren't there. And I remember a reaction in his face, and I said, but yeah, it has happened before. Y'all were at the house. Y'all were in the bedroom. Y'all were just off in your bedroom by yourself. And I just remember his face just being so contorted and looking so whatever, and breaking down crying. And it's just like, but I'm like, if y'all were drunk and passed out drunk and doing whatever y'all were doing, y'all weren't paying attention to what he was doing, you know? And so it's no vaginal penetration or anything anally, but outside of him manipulating and coercing me into touching him touching me and kissing me, touching my breast, things of that nature, he would come into the bathroom when I would take a shower and would get fully undressed and get into the shower with me. And this is where I have the memories of him manipulating me and coercing me and showing me how to do it and pushing my head down into giving him oral sex. It's been so long that I've been able to say that shit out loud without busting out bawling or being too afraid to speak it. But yes, that happened. Coercion is a large weapon for the average predator. Because again, you don't have any other tools to know when to say stop, know that you can say stop, know that you should say no. You not saying any of that gives them in their head permission to continue to do it. And again, after my breath started coming in, then I'm just feeling more self-conscious and just knowing that just this is not right. Like I don't feel right. Like we ain't supposed to be doing this. Can't remember if I was really hearing stories from other girls at school or not, or anything like anything with molestation or rape or nothing. And the words again with the communal ignorance with people that don't grow up past what they've just been in this tight knit community for long. The word passing around was, "Oh, girl, he messing with her. She got messed with this, that, and other." It took me how many damn years after leaving home to look into what the fuck messing with meant. And they meant molestation. But that shared cognitive ignorance communally, not reading anything, not wanting to read anything, and not getting real facts from real sources. People just pass on this ignorance. So I had fucking no idea what messing with somebody meant, right? I remember I started to get my period, uh, getting a little bit closer to age 12. And I was just all too aware of the changes happening with my body. And I was not feeling just all nice and cute and pretty and all this shit that these other developing girls in school in my neighborhood were doing. I felt fucking horrible. I felt like, what the fuck is this? No education to know the difference. But it's really that insecurity on your body changes and you're becoming something that you are meant to be, something that you've never been, and you don't know what that path is. I had no leadership. My mother did not talk to me about sex, period. No conversation about it. And when I got my period, it was the morning that we were going to school. And I get up, blood in my panties, in my bed a little bit, not a whole lot, but enough spotting to know that, okay, go in the bathroom, wipe myself or whatnot, and I got blood there. I remember going to wake her up in her bedroom to tell her. And she asked me, how did I know that it was my period? And by this point, I had maybe a sex ed class or maybe been in phys ed or something like that. And we did have a couple of teachers that were trying to give us some info and teach us some whatever. You just can't have these girls running around getting their periods, not knowing what their periods are, and they're running around with a bunch of boys, and then in the middle of gym class, your fucking period starts. Like, the fucking movie Carrie. Like, really, like that was on a 100. So you being a kid and this shit really happening, you really feeling like shit. Oh, my mom further humiliated me. I woke her up, and you waking me up out of my bed, and you don't even know what the hell happening to you, and all this kind of shit. Went in, looked at my sheets, looked at my panties, made me go into the bathroom, wipe myself with some more tissue, and this or that and the other, and that was like I pissed her off because I started my period. Went and got me these both sides ass fucking maxi pads with belts on them. If people are that old and know what the fuck that those are. This was before you had the little, not before they were made, but evidently my mama just wasn't buying them. But it had the little wings where they would stick on underneath your panties, and the pad was there so they didn't slide. My mama had the shits, and she worked in a hospital, was in a hospital working at that point back then, where you had, and these were the hospital grade. I just call them. Other than that, I don't know what the fuck they were, and where she got them from. Okay, so they had the belts on them. When you take the pads at either end, and the belt tucked underneath your panties, and you could tie them in a little knot to keep them from moving in your panties. That's what my mama gave me. And the talk was, you better put this shit on. Don't mess up no more of my damn clothes. You're going to take these and that to school. And I know they got a nurse and stuff at school. If you need some more something at school, you better talk to the nurse at school, or you have them call me or whatever. It was just like delivered to me like I inconvenienced her that I got my period. No talk beforehand that I should be getting to the age where I'm having my period, and no real communication after that. So it's maybe a day or so after that, I get home from school that day, and it's a day or so after that, the lady next door was a nurse. You get pamphlets, booklets from her on having your period. My mama gave me that, told me to read them. And if I had any questions and anything was going on with me or whatever at school, I need to make sure that I talk to the nurse, whatever at school, or talk to a teacher, and then have them call her about what was going on with me. Keep up with your periods, so you'll know when your periods are. You're supposed to write down when you're going to have your periods and this, that, and other. I had hard, horrendous, awful periods and cramps all through my early years growing up. The words now really read, they're doing that research, endometriosis, fibroids, this, that, and other, all that. And my mother had no conversation with me about none of that. Other than I'm having my period, I just got my period, this, that, and other, and then now knowing how to go out and purchase and keep what I needed. But what I decided to start using tampons, I didn't tell her about it. I was using tampons because I was in sports in. And this came to us from our coaches and stuff. We had female coaches that would sit down. You guys can use this, but if we got sports, we got shit to do. Y'all can still play, but you can't be running around with no damn bloody ass fucking maxi pad or fucking underwear showing. So now I had an older cousin. She was using them. And she asked me one, showed me and gave me my first couple ones, showed me how to use them, and told me how I was supposed to insert them and whatever. Nothing from my mother. I was about 30-ish going on that. And with lupus, I know now it kind of activated my menopause symptoms way early on. I remember asking her then. They give me a couple pointers on anything she had gone through, because she had was going through it at that point. Her menopause. Jokingly so, but yeah, I need to get prepared for this. Like, hot flashes, night sweats, this, that, and other, and whatnot. It's verbatim, it was almost the same script she gave me as she did when I came to her to talk to her about my period. Why are you asking me about this? You got a doctor? You got a doctor you go to? What you need to be asking me about this for? Just damn. Can I talk to you, if possible, as a woman? No, I couldn't, and still can't. And she won't do it. I realize now my mom is one of these women. My mother was raised by her grandmother, first of all. So she was one of these women. At the time she had me, my mother is having me with a 50-year-old person's knowledge, because that's who raised her. Not the 26 or 27-year-old woman that she should have been in her own right, giving birth to me. That was not it. Um, so I got the old wives' tales and the bullshit and the secrets and the lies and the fears and the this and all of that kind of shit passed down to me, or she tried to. And that's the real reason why we was never able to get along. Like, my brain was just not soaking up none of this shit she was telling me. It's like stupid, dumb. You're my mother and I love you. Hopefully you're not stupid and dumb, but the shit you're telling me and the shit you believe is stupid and dumb. Like, we can coexist, but we ain't got to get along. Not if you just gonna try to make me be you or a version of you. That ain't happening. I knew at an early age it wasn't resonating with me. I didn't know other than people label me as just being rebellious. I know now it's trying to step into my own independence and develop my own identity. Wrapping all of that up, I began to get my period. Breasts were already forming. Started having my period. And at the times my brother would try to step to me, engage me again in any other touching, this, that, whatever, I was just like, nah, I got my period. And as soon as I would like say that, he just like the plague, like step away, wouldn't bother me or whatever. So I began to realize that was the magic word. I began to use that shit all the time. So in my head, again, the year and a half that this lasted, so now that puts me at almost 12, it's going to put my sister at being almost 10. The exact same age I was when he was starting in on me. And I was like, is he going to try to start something with her? At that age, it would put him at being 15 or 16, 15. If I was, yeah. So if this cycle lasted almost 2 years, it would put him at being almost 15. And if he's wanting to try to approach and touch or whatever to my sister at 10, like she's still a kid, way young, a little girl. So I remember having a conversation once with him, like, no, we're not gonna do this no more. You're not gonna touch me no more. You ain't bothering me no more. This, that, and other. You don't need to be asking Tamika for nothing. You know, I hate to put her name out there like that, but it is what it is. You don't need to be asking her for nothing. And if you do, I'm gonna tell mom and dad. I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna tell on you. And my mom and dad, you dropped the sock coming in from school, taking your shoes and socks off. You dropped it in the floor, forgot to put it in the hamper. They would smack you across the floor 10 feet. Depends on how drunk they were that day, you know. So that was the magic word for any of us to stop doing any bullshit. I'm going to tell mom and dad. And that stopped. Like, it stopped. Nothing else. In my memory, nothing else. I've tried long and hard to think of nothing else happening after that point. I felt just so dirty and nasty and filthy at the times that I would sit and allow myself to think about it, because I'm hearing other girls just now talking about it. Then at me going into being 12, 13, 14, 15, getting older, and hearing girls saying they were, now that I know, being molested, and hearing stuff about incest and rape and all the other forcible, horrible things that I'm like, well, none of that real physical, bad, violent stuff happened to me. So that wasn't the same thing that happened to me. I'm just thinking it didn't happen to me, and it did. The trauma is still there, however softly it comes or how forcefully it comes. The trauma, the traumatic stuff of you knowing that this was an invasion of you happened. It took me years and years and years back and forth with this love, hate, not want to be around my family, then I go back, the dysfunction of that shit, being around them, hanging around them, constantly not suppressing shit, not talking to nobody about nothing, but then just constantly flying off the handle, fighting about any old little minute thing, and I'm realizing that, yeah, it's like, I'm mad as fuck that this happened to me. He did this to me. My parents did nothing about it. I remember my mom during that time, this was after me starting my period, during that time, asking me, like, is your brother messing with you? Is he doing anything to you? Again, you bringing it to me with no kind of nurturing love, no nothing. You bringing some shit to me like it's already my fault. And anything, I had those type parents that lied to you all the time. Tell us this, tell us the truth. You're not going to get in trouble. And you got your ass beat. just for them to try to figure out what was going on. It was always lying on their part as parents. So I didn't want to get my ass beat for something you already making me feel like it was my fault. So I lied and I told her no. He wasn't doing anything and nothing happened. That energy of me trying to suppress that, I stayed heavy in sports all through my middle school, high school years. Anything I can do to stay in, but this at this point is culminating with the abuse from my parents, both of them, physical abuse, both of them, talking down to you. You weren't shit. You ain't this. You ain't that. Whatever, along with whatever belt you got. Closed fists, beat with plastic bats. My father burned me with a hot iron that I just unplugged from the wall, ironing a pair of jeans, getting ready to go to a concert. But we weren't supposed to iron nothing on the bed, and I'm ironing a quick pair of jeans on the bed. So I guess my mom at the last minute had allowed us to go, and trying to hurry up and go, get these jeans ironed on a towel on the bed. He walks in and realized I had ironed some stuff, and where's the ironing board? I'm putting the iron back, I think, and the ironing board wasn't out. So where'd you iron it? And I just ironed myself on the bed, and I got pinned down, held down. And this is going to be another video, another blog for that. By my neck, on my tummy. He's ironing the same pants I just ironed, back and forth over those irons. With that iron I just unplugged from the wall. God knows whoever has actually sat in time how long it takes for an iron to cool down. And I got burned on my ass enough to create a blister like 2 or 3 days later. That's the first and only time I ever remember hearing my mom say the word abuse, because I was going to school with a wet rag in my drawers every day because it hurt and burned too much to sit down, and my raw ass was sticking to my fucking drawers. And I remember my mom either seeing the wet spot or something. I couldn't get comfortable in the chair. She's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This happened maybe like 2 or 3 days after he did that. And why are your clothes wet? That's why I got a towel back there. Why you got a towel back there? Well, Dad burned me with the iron the other day. What you mean he burned you with the iron the other day? He burned me with the iron the other day when we were supposed to go to the concert. And then he said we couldn't go. She took me to the bedroom, made me take my clothes off, and peeling my underwear off and peeled this towel off. And at me hearing my mother actually having some emotion, and oh my God, I can't believe he did this to my baby. I've never heard that shit come out of my mother's mouth before then or since then. Her head, she had to physically see something. And can't remember what their schedules were at night, but I remember at the time at night we were having dinner and he was getting home around that time. I'm back at the couch. She got something to put on me, some ointment or something like that. And I'm back at the table eating and whatnot. And I remember her fussing, like him coming in the door, like, what's the problem? Da, 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 da. You did this to my baby. You hurt my baby. You this and another. Just abuse and this and another. And this is how people get reported for abuse. But it was not reported. I had to go back into that same bedroom, take my clothes back off for her to show him what he did. All I remember him in that moment is just looking and walking out. And it was maybe another day or two after that. Sitting at the dinner table again, just eating and whatnot, and he comes in and he apologizes. It never happened for any other abuse before then or since then. But in their head, that was the only form of abuse, something you saw. And he apologized for that, burning me with the iron. He could apologize for being slapped across the room, for wearing some lipstick, or grabbed by the hair, or my mom slapping me for whatever goddamn reason, beat me with a baseball bat, nothing before then and since then on either one of their parts. So, coupled with that, and you're asking a young girl to tell you the truth, and you've already been proven to not be a person that you can be trusted, to not get in trouble. I told her no, he wasn't touching me. To save my fucking self. That was the beginning of me keeping my own secrets. I was taught how to keep secrets. And again, that it's in a rationale today, no, it doesn't make sense. But I honestly believe that I never would have gotten any help from my mother at all. I never spoken to her one-on-one about it ever. Tried telling my dad about it a few years ago, and he did absorb it. He did hear it. I saw him being a little crying, a little tearful about it, but just never know, are you okay? This, that, and other, no, nothing. What can I do now? Just never know nothing of that. I got up very early one morning. I was visiting. I was on really this cleansing journey to get this emotional shit off of me. And I remember telling him I need to get up. We need to have a talk. There's some shit like that's happened that you don't know nothing about, but you need to hear it. I need my daddy. I need to talk to you. And this is, maybe it was 10 years ago. I'll put it that way. 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. We got up and had a conversation. I told him this is going to be the hardest thing I probably ever had to tell you, is I need you to hold my hand. I need to get through it. We sat across from each other on the table. He held my hand, and I began to tell him as much of what I could that happened. But I do remember telling him that it was not a rape. It's not. He didn't physically punch me, hurt me, or force me to do anything. He was just telling me to do it all the time, and asking me to do it and playing around about it. And the more I told my dad, the tighter his hand got on me. So again, he did, I guess, what he could then. But he was never able to be strong enough to speak up on my behalf. I tried to schedule counseling with my family, my dad and my mom, starting with them after that, and then bring my sister and brother into it. They flaked on me. Years later, I called him out about it, and he tried to pretend that, no, it didn't happen. We had stuff to do. Well, you're lying. Strong enough to call a liar when I needed to call a liar, even if the liar was my mother or my father. Yeah, like, this ain't happening. I ain't doing this in my life. Like, whatever shit you did in your life and stayed in a very childlike, meek-like sensibility and relationship with your dad and your mom through your whole adult life, and they run your life, and when they snap and told you to jump, you jump at a 30, 40, 50-year-old man, I ain't doing that with y'all. I'm not doing it. I'm going to live my life. And you ain't going to be a healthy part of it. You're not going to be in it. And again, me now getting into my years of teaching, starting to see the patterns and know these circles and what we call were the change. You got to break the chain. You got to do it, not nobody else. And that's my story. That grieving part of me, yeah, it's still there. It comes up and it goes. It's just the most weird looking, weird feeling. And that's all I can say is it's just me grieving that part of my childhood, that the memories are still there. I don't think about them often. They don't come up often. I'm 95% able to talk about it with other people and listen to their stories and offer whatever insight that I can, without getting too taken back into my own hole of depth, like my damn shirt that I got here. Let me pick this up. Meet me on the dark side, okay? I'm a Star Wars girl, not Star Trek. Star Wars. Um, got this shirt and I just saw it spark. Okay, I got to go there today. I got to go to some dark places. I got to go deep. And the thing about being able to explore those caverns and caves of your life, it challenges you and your strength. You've got to be able to go in there to challenge yourself and remind yourself that you are no longer afraid of the dark. You're not afraid of the boogeyman. Like, can't shit up in here trust you. I've strengthened myself, fortified myself, educated myself, loved myself to know that I've already been through that shit. And I can't continue to let 20 and 30-year-old shit affect me the same way it did 20 and 30 years ago. Because, bitch, it's 20 or 30 years later. You got to be living and loving yourself. You can't be dwelling on that shit. It's gone. It's in the past. It's a part of what makes you who you are. And you don't have to continue to live in that now the way you did then. That's growth. So when you got to go into them dark places, you got to go in there sometimes. If nothing else, just remind yourself that you're a strong motherfucker. That you persevered. You made it through that shit. And look them fucking demons in the eye. And bitch, you got no power here. Nothing you will ever do or say to me again will have the effect that it used to have. You got to come up with some new shit to try to take me out. And at the time that I got diagnosed with my damn lupus, I didn't even allow myself to get into those stages of whatever. The only thing I went through in my head then was I beat myself up for a very little short period of time, thinking back over them years that I was so goddamn overly achieving. And even getting into a lot of heavy drinking and all that and partying and shit when I was way young, and then thinking that I did this to myself, like I destroyed my body, like this is my body's not healthy, it's fighting against me. But it ain't never nothing psychologically that happened to me that broke or flipped that I went into a place of depression. I'm like, no, well, damn, am I dying? If I'm not dying, like right now, what do I need to do? Is it medications? Is it exercise? What am I going to need to do to learn how to deal with this? Since I'm not dying. 15 years later, I ain't dead yet. Still here. And gonna keep shit moving. So I know that that's my biggest headache if I allowed it to be. Because I got to step with that shit every day. The medications and this and that. It's a fucking pain in the ass. Certain times I get flares up. The last two flares have been identical. And most of the time they're not. There's a certain set of different shit that happens every time. My last two flares have been identical. I've had spikes in my blood pressure. I have to go and get a 3 or 4 inch fucking needle shot stuck in my ass to get my blood pressure down immediately. I don't take blood pressure pills. I'm not on them. I don't need them. The spike in my blood pressure is a symptom of my lupus when it flares up. Last two times, that's what's happened. Along with listening to my doctor. You can't allow yourself to be around. And the two times it spiked up, I was in Birmingham visiting. Around a funeral, a family, wedding, a reunion, or doing some other shit with my family. People that I know that stress me the fuck out. And it spiked up twice. Under the same circumstances. You ain't got to keep hitting you on your head with no damn bricks. I get it. This situation, these people, this environment, this is toxic. It's not healthy for me. With that being said, y'all, you got to love yourself enough to want to live your life differently and do it differently. And I promise you, you will get better results and get the same results, if not better, than the shit you were doing. But you got to want to do the work. You got to want to do the work. I wanted to wrap this video up with, again, this is going to be as much of an educational platform as it's going to be an emotional one to get shit out. And I want to give a shout out to some of the people in my life, too, that I spoke my truth with very early on. I plan on having this bitch on. We'll do a live. We'll get it done. We'll do something. She is a trans woman of color. And she actually was an ex-student of mine. We had a great connection probably close to 9-10 years ago now when she was a student. And we've just kept each other uplifted and been positive anything in each other's lives. And I have rolled through some shit with this bitch. And she's got her own story to tell. And I really want to be able to get her on the platform one day to be able to tell her story. So shout out to my best bitch in the world, Miss Natasha. What's up, boo? I bet you didn't see that coming. But I told you I was going to drop this shit. I was planning on doing it. And today it just happened. I love you, bitch. Wherever you at right now. And I think your Instagram told me you was headed to Charlotte or whatever. Okay, you getting fly on them hoes, right? Okay. I'll give you a shout out anyway and let you know that I dropped the video. And I want you to share it and know that, yeah, we're going to get together and we're going to do this thing. coming real soon. With that being said, I always keep her in mind when I'm hearing about things about women and women of color, and that means all women, including trans women. That we can't afford to marginalize nobody else, y'all. This is why we don't have the help and resources, or haven't had them when we needed them. Too many generations of women. I mean, I can take this shit back to women's suffrage. When women didn't have the rights to their own fucking kids, that they pushed out of their pussy, baked in they fucking damn uteruses, and pushed them motherfuckers out they pussies. The children belong to the men. Women didn't have the right. There's a great movie that was out with Meryl Streep. I would say Naomi Watts, a couple of the actresses like that. It was called Suffrage. It was out maybe 2 to 3 years ago. It's just like a straight to DVD thing, but it really opened my eyes to see the birth of the women's liberation movement and what women actually went through. This is the precursor to women's right to abortions and this and that and all of that. And trust me, all of that shit is coming. All of it is coming. What we're dealing with right now and this new war attack on women with this forced abortion, non-abortion shit and all of this whatnot. I don't want to get too heated about that. I'm going to kind of stay on task, okay? But it's coming. But at any rate, that's why I think about Natasha with things of that nature being a not the only trans woman that I've known, but that's personally in my life. And I have to give a shout out to that bitch whenever I can because she's been that bitch to me more times than I can count. And I'm hoping I've been that bitch to her more times than she can count. And at times, sometimes it's just, you need that bitch on the other phone to hear you, just listen to you. And give you that word of encouragement that this and that, and you give it to them. And that's how you really bond and form them friendships. To me, at this stage in my life, that's what matters to me. Not what club we kicking into and this, that, and other. So grown motherfuckers still out there wasting their years and money doing that shit. Y'all have at it. You got, again, no purpose in my life. All right, so I'm going to read a couple statements here. I'm going to put where I get this information from in the description box, along with my email, along with a number. I plan on doing a conference calls, have a call-in number, segments like that, where I can get the things recorded and get them on here. I don't know if it needs to go to a separate platform, such as a podcast or whatever, but I do know that this is probably the most beneficial for me right now to be able to reach more people. You're going to see probably a campaign for it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm going to do some new pages there. Please support it. Like, hit the notification button, subscribe, do the whole 9 yards. Make sure you stay in contact with me. Drop your positive comments below, please. Drop them comments. I need to hear what other people are going through. On this particular segment, Black girls get molested too. Okay, we need to hear that because we want to hear more people's stories, again, to give them the opportunity to speak on it. It is so freeing and cathartic, you guys. I've gone back and forth with, do I need to write a book? Do I need to this, and that? And this has just been the easiest, simplest way for me to get my story out there. So this is what it is. On my research that I've done with trying to better understand why I felt not safe for a lot of years speaking on it. And again, outside of the social stigmas that come with you being victimized as the victim when someone hurt you, like where does that shit even start? So we gotta, dig a little bit deeper. I have a fact sheet here from the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault, MCASA. It's titled African American Women and Sexual Assault. Two excerpts here. I'm going to read really quickly. Some of this information is as early as lately dated as I can get it. And for people that don't know, data, research, information like that coincides with census records. So I do apologize if this sounds a little dated, but this is the only thing that's available for me as of right now until it gets updated again when the next census rolls around. All right, so this is kind of in between where you are census-wise. Since we're on the 10-year track with census, this makes sense that a lot of this data gets compiled over that 10-year period or somewhere in between, and then it gets put out, and then it holds still until more data is taken for the next census period. All right, on this fact sheet, two things that stood out for me was, first bullet point is African-American girls and women 12 years old and older experience higher rates of rape and sexual assault than white, Asian, and Latino girls combined. from the years 2005 to 2010. This was conducted by the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics. Female Victims of Sexual Violence, 1994 to 2010, and it was published in 2013. Another percentage that stood out here says that 40 to 60% of Black women report being subjected to coercive sexual contact by age 18. This was published by Black Women's Blueprint, the Truth Commission on Black Women and Sexual Violence, published in 2012. So again, like I said, outside of my brother coercing me into performing oral sex, it's coercive touching, inappropriateness, some type of contact that's done coercively. And that coercion is a powerful mechanism for the unstrengthened mind. Okay, so it's the basis of what any con artist does. They gain your trust, and then they manipulate and they abuse your trust to get what they want or what they need. All right. All right. With that being said, here's another one that was put out by, goodness, I think this was BET News. Don't quote me. I'm going to have to make sure to go back and do my bookmark my articles again, and I'll drop them in the comments description box. All right, this one is Black Women and Sexual Violence. Just a general 3 or 4 page document here that I'm going to read from, but again, I'm going to pull out some bullet points that stuck out for me. One says that over 18% of African American women will be sexually assaulted in her lifetime. Every one Black African American woman, 18% of African American women will be assaulted in her one lifetime. That's not a whole high number. You're talking about the totality of Black women, but that's still way too many for it to be 18%. Okay. All right. The next article here is a segment here, paragraph drops down and says social stigmas and sexual violence. Okay. I thought this was interesting because it took it way back than what my brain was trying to calculate. It says that hypersexualized depictions of women of color, particularly Black women, have functioned since the early 1400s and have manifested themselves through our political and cultural landscapes for centuries. The myth that Black women were vessels for sexual desire were used to justify enslavement, rape, forced reproduction, and other forms of sexual coercion in the early onset of Western colonization. We know who the colonizers are. The function of this process was crafted to further dehumanize women of color, making it culturally acceptable for European imperialists to abuse Black women and other women of color, such as American Indian women. I thought that was powerful as well. I'll be putting some depictions in of women being early sexualized. Sarah Bartman was a woman who was actually put on display as a circus act, a circus freak, because of the excessive amount of fibrous fat tissue, adipose tissue in her ass. And it's a woman plucked from somewhere in the wherever of Africa and put on display. That she had this excessive amount of fat in her ass, again, unseen by the ignorant Western colonizer's eye. And this woman was put on display as a circus act next to fucking juggling bears and dancing lions. So she was further dehumanized and sexualized because of that. I'll try to put the information in on the early works of imperialistic colonizer by the name of Dr. Mims, who in my home state of Alabama was known as the father of gynecology, until further research, and I believe this started where people were beginning to tear down these old racist depictions and statues on like colleges and public displays, and they were tearing them down. And this guy had his statue torn down from, it was somewhere else in the South, I can't remember. But anyway, he did a lot of his early work on slaves and from plantations in and around Alabama, without anesthesia. A lot of his research was conducted on women who would give birth to breech babies, women who were just having your regular gynecological issues like any other white women. But of course, you were not considered a person. You were a slave. You didn't exist, and they did whatever the fuck with you that they wanted. And he went in and did a lot of invasive procedures, surgical procedures on these women with them wide awake. The women were strapped to tables and makeshift gurneys and chains. This whole depiction of being stuffed in the mouth so they weren't screaming or yelling or anything, and cut open and mutilated, and some were killed and murdered in the process. But he was deemed the father of modern gynecology. We can say another dehumanizing fact was done on Henrietta Lacks. Oprah Winfrey did a great job on her, and I've been trying to find that movie on Netflix. I thought it was there, but I don't guess it is. I'll find it sooner or later. Download it or whatever. Henrietta Lacks, this lady's cells long after her death, but during the time that she was visiting doctors and going through doctors, this woman had like an amazing ability for reparative and restorative cell reproduction. Cells were taken without her permission, and they were used over generations, reproductively so, and sold on the medical market, hospital market, without her family's knowledge or permission. And at the time that everything finally came out, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars that cell production from this woman actually happened. That kind of coincides with where people are right now with organ harvesting, and you're hearing a lot of shit that's happening on the black market, but you just can't up and drop dead somewhere. People are having their organs pulled out of their bodies without their family's permission, then tossed out to a funeral home, and people realizing that they got organs missing, and they're stuffing paper and wads of cotton balls in people's bodies to pump them back up to realize that their organs have been taken out. You're going to be clean and gutted. We get that. And your shit, to me, should be in an incinerator or ground up or whatever it goes out. But people are gutting you out, and they're taking your shit without your knowledge, family's knowledge. You're not an organ donor on your card or nothing, and they're selling your shit for profit. The doctors have access to do that. And what the fuck are you going to do about it? You already did. But we've been raped in more than one sense of the word for years by this establishment, at least in 2019, who's supposed to be set up to help us. And you wonder why we don't trust colonizers and other isers that still control the power structure in this country today. With that being said, Oprah also did a really great job. I believe it was last year when the Me Too movement first happened, and it was Me Too and Time's Up movement. She was giving a speech, and she made mention of this, but I just recently done some research. Like prior to that, she was in and around the state of Alabama again, and she went to visit this woman's family. And I don't know if she's doing another movie or research or whatever, and that was her reason for being there, but probably and rightfully so. Okay. Reese Taylor, in the year of 1944, was abducted by 6 white men while walking home from church and was raped at gunpoint. Reese Taylor's case was tried by an all-white, all-male jury and was dismissed within 5 minutes of deliberation despite physical evidence and multiple witnesses that corroborated her abduction. The story of Reese Taylor is just one of thousands, and her story, however, identifies as a trend that we continue to see today. Sexual violence against black women is often dismissed or ignored. And I believe the reason Oprah did that trip was because I believe Miss Taylor just died recently, right before or after that speech Oprah gave when she was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award or something. It's like last year, 2018. And she had just done that trip and met with the family. So I believe Miss Taylor had just passed away. And she was able to go visit the gravesite and things of that nature. And again, hearing that woman's story, and if she's going to do it justice and bring it to life, I'm all for it, you know. But another example in this century of women, black women, being dismissed and ignored. It, you know, it's just what it is. We're invisible to the ignorant, imperialistic, narcissistic, racist eye and mind. We no longer need to depend on them for acceptance and to constantly prove that yes, we matter, we exist. We know that we do, but half of the behavior that's again been taught and thrown at us is learned. And much of a history buff as I am, I can't think of too many instances in our pre-enslavement years in slavery or anything in and around that slave trade years where slaves were raping each other. Like you don't hear that. It was learned. All right, this last article is from the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, and their newsletter called Speak Freely. This says the legal system has failed black girls, women, and non-binary survivors of violence. And again, this comes from the tag is to race and criminal justice, and this is January of 2019. So I did want to make sure that I got something a little bit more facts and data up to date. All right, and the reason this one jumps out at me because it makes a mention of guess who? R. Kelly. All right. Following the airing of Lifetime six-part docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, which describes decades of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse he allegedly perpetrated against black girls and women, many of R. Kelly's fans and supporters continue to rally around the singer-songwriter and even place blame on his accusers for being fast. Again, you know, and that was thrown around at me when I was a kid growing up trying to talk to my mom about shit, and it just was not happening. You know, being a fast hill little girl and all this kind of shit. Growing breasts, having a bleeding vagina, ain't none of that shit your fault. It's what's supposed to happen. And you are supposed to be the support system that I'm supposed to have to teach me how to navigate that shit. And that ain't how it went down. That's not how it goes down with a lot of people. So without proper education, you just navigating through this fucking wilderness we call life, and you out there with the wolves as well as the rabbits. It ain't always cute. It ain't always pretty. And people got to learn to do better and acknowledge the fucking ignorance. I don't weaponize that word. It is a word and it serves a purpose. And I use it accordingly because hopefully the more people hear what I'm being ignorant about, you'll do some self-reflection and go out and gain some knowledge and be less ignorant. All right. Further on this topic, it says about 22% of black women in the United States have experienced rape. 40% will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And black women are killed at a much higher rate than any other group of women. A 2015 survey of black trans and non-binary individuals found that 53% have experienced sexual violence and 56% have experienced domestic violence. That's including now non-binary and trans women. All right, the last little part here that I wanted to make note of, it says that because black women and girls have historically been dehumanized, considered unrapeable, whatever the fuck that means. Like somebody can't forcibly stick a dick in your mouth, your ass, or your pussy. So again, my mouth, my ass, my pussy was not considered a part of me because we were not considered human. Dehumanized is one thing, and actually being void of humanity is something else. We've never been considered human. And this is a long, lingering thing that most races, the first thing is going to pipe up and say, I'm not racist. But your bias, the way you treat, act, behave, react, hear, receive information regarding a black person, it has a different resonation with you because of this blackness. That's the dehumanization. Okay? Because black women and girls have historically been dehumanized, considered unrapeable, and left without legal recourse because nobody gave enough of a fuck about us to as in Miss Reese Taylor's case, to proceed with legal recourse. We were left without legal recourse. They become easier targets for abuse and are more reluctant to come forward because you have no fucking help and nobody fucking cares. So the only thing we've had over the years when these women would sit around at their tables and talk about this bullshit with their men and their husbands and what their daddies was doing. And I can even take this back while I'm on the Oprah Winfrey subject. It's just triggered something for me. Going back to a scene in the movie The Color Purple when Celie's daddy, who was raping her, molesting her as a young girl that she had the 2 kids by, she's going to his funeral towards the end of that movie and realizes that that man was not her legal father. He had just raised her, but she had had 2 kids by him. Okay. Because earlier in the movie that he told her, you're going to come do what your mama ain't, and that's performing the duties of being a woman to him, which was being his sexual whatever. At the end of the movie, the woman he was then married to, and Celie asks a question, how did he die? And the young girl covers her baby's head up and says, on top of. So it was the general feeling in the movie that this man just had a thing for younger women, and he preyed on younger women. And you had no help, no environment, no nothing. But women over the years, and we had to sit down and talk and had to get that little whisper out to each other or something. We were able to whisper and say a little something to another black woman that, yeah, he did this to me too. And he did that to me too. Even messing with me, girl. He did that. That was all we had for a lot of years. But outside of you speaking on that, still in that soft, uh, victimized voice, we got to do better with getting women the help that they need. Because this ain't 1944 no more. Fuck all the secrets and lies. And girl, you ain't supposed to say that and whisper about that. Fuck that shit. A predator's biggest weapon is your silence. Again, not victimizing you. So let me rephrase it. Their biggest weapon is silence. And when we remove all of the resources, we don't fortify our women, we don't encourage education, we don't encourage women to go out, become financially independent and wealthy. You ain't got to depend on this man, just stay in the house with this man, beating the fuck out of you, raping other women, beating other women, all this shit. You just got to stay with this person for self-preservation reasons. Like, no, 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 no. Fortification is key. Fortify your mind, your wallet, your spirit. We cannot afford to let ignorance and evil win. We can't. Give me a second. Let me put this cord in. Oh, there we go. I refuse to let it win. I spent too many years of my life not loving myself enough to do this work, not loving myself enough to speak my voice. And not loving myself, again, is not something bad that I did to myself. I didn't have the tools how. I didn't know that it was okay to love me as I was. We're just now really getting into some things in life in general where people are being accepted as they are. People have been put in bags and boxes and corners and put on shelves and told, well, you did this and looked like this, didn't make this, didn't wear this, your hair wasn't like this, so you are discardable. You ain't lovable. You don't fit the damn picture, the frame. All that's bullshit. I'm a human being. And my first job is to learn to love myself. So under the false, immature expectation of expecting other people to love me and they don't have the capacity to do it, therefore I'm constantly disappointed and let down and feeling unfulfilled because I've given all my love to them, expecting them to give me something in return. I love me fully, totally, all the way through. I don't need nobody else's love, because I'm loving me already. So I look for that in other people, that type of emotional independence in people. So when we come together, your thing is already here, my thing is here. 100 and 100 is 200 strong. versus 50 and 50 and we're 100. Or you bringing your 25 and I got 75, or you bringing your other half of this shit and 3/4 of that shit to try to make one whole. I try to be as whole as I can. Again, not perfect, but whole. It's different. I don't want nothing in my life no more I got to spend time fixing and breaking, especially when I didn't break you. Your shit is your shit. I done had my own shit. I got many more years of my life behind me than I will have ahead of me. And I will give that shout out to my Aunt Effie that dropped that knowledge on me years ago. You you can pull from it and you can do what you need to do, but that shit is behind you already. You got to live your life and what you got in front of you now, regardless of you can't control it and it's not destined, however short or long it is. You know you living today for you. Make that every day. I don't it's so a minute bit of a thing that's negative like this can be this. But it feels like this. So what you have to do to keep this shit in check, you got to constantly go out and be putting this much more positive shit in your life to fight off this. So this shit doesn't grow to this and it doesn't win. It's like a fucking tornado that's going to blow through a damn community. And you got uh, how many fucking houses? And you got a big ass mountain at the end of the damn valley where the tornado is going to go. That tornado is going to come through and eat up all them little fucking houses, sweep everything up, fuck it up, and it's fucking moving, eating up everything. I guarantee you when it comes to that one mountain, that one hill, at that valley, that motherfucking tornado is done. It hit that bitch, boom, dissipated. It's gone. It's up against some strong shit. Ain't but one, but it's far stronger than 50 houses that was already in its path. Your job is to know you're supposed to be that fucking mountain. And a tornado is gonna come. It's a freak of nature. It's a fact of nature. It's supposed to come. I don't care nothing about being down in this valley with these 50 other houses of these unnamed other motherfuckers that's too weak to get their motherfucking asses out to this house and run on the other side of that goddamn mountain. Climb up the mountain if you can't choose to be the mountain. It's my job to strengthen me and fortify me and love me enough to do it. So when somebody else doesn't have the capacity or the desire, capability, to do it, I'm not let down. I'm not disappointed. I ain't mad. I ain't angry because they ain't giving me what I gave them. Keep your own shit to yourself. You ain't got to worry about giving all of you away. When a motherfucker that's empty themselves, ain't no bottom, no floor to their shit. You just constantly pouring in and your shit constantly running out. That's why they can't hold nothing. And that's why they ain't got nothing to give back to you. Stop doing that self-hating shit. This one motherfucker in your life can be gone and you holding on to this piece of shit and the motherfuckers that's supposed to be in your life can't get in. You ain't loving God, you ain't loving yourself. Been there, done that, ain't gonna do it no more. This right now, this joy, this centeredness, this okayness with self is fucking priceless. Ain't no motherfucker ever gonna come into my life and try to take it from me ever again. I die right now today. Come back as a fucking butterfly. Get sprayed with rain. Hit with a fucking fly swatter. And die again. And no motherfucker's gonna take it from me. I can come back after being a butterfly. And be a fucking lizard. Crawling on the fucking ground. In the Amazon rainforest. Until a fucking whatever that live out there decide they gonna come pick my ass up and eat me. Or fucking truck that's tearing down the rainforest. Gonna run over my ass and squish me. I can die then. And ain't gonna give a fuck about no motherfucker that don't love me. Because they can't love me. Because I'm busy loving me. I can be this person and be that butterfly. And then go be that fucking lizard. And die again. And come back as a speck of dust on the fucking planet Mars. And not give a fuck about no motherfucker not loving me. Watching the fucking astronauts and spaceships and shit land on this goddamn planet and get burned the fuck up and disintegrated and watch y'all motherfuckers walk around with all this shit because you can't breathe this air. But I'm a speck of dust floating around this goddamn motherfucking bitch doing me. Bitch, I'm supposed to be here on Mars. Yo, dumbass ain't. So I'm going to sit here, this speck of dust, and love myself enough to be the speck of dust on this goddamn motherfucking planet and watch your ass burn up. Ain't got no air to breathe, ain't got no water to drink, and keep putting yourself in a motherfucking ignorant ass situation, human being, and killing yourself again. I can damn be swallowed up, burned up by the flames that's gonna come out that goddamn space shuttle engine and burn all my speck of dust ass up and die again, and still not give a fuck about some bitch on earth anywhere that don't know how to love me because they don't love themselves. That's how done I am with other motherfucker shit in life. Never again. This joy here. But I know I had to go through some things and some more things to get to the point to where this feels like this and it looks like this and it comes out like this. And I'm thankful for this. Finally, I get it. Life is what it is. Your job, regardless of what you were born into, and I think back on again the numbers. The very short amount of time you have them 16, 17, 18-year-old years that you're in someone else's care. You've got 2 or 3 times many more of those years to live your life for yourself. You ain't got to have the best upbringing or the best environment, but it's your job to do it different because it's on you now. Until you really get that, people are going to spend their whole life drinking, partying, alcohol addiction, buying cars, buying clothes, staying in debt. I got to look like this, dress like this, go vacation, go show off, go this, need attention, and around 50 women and around 50 men, and you ain't sucking and fucking and doing nothing. Not at that age, you ain't. I'm 46 years old. I know how many dicks out here don't work. Another video. I ain't gonna spend my years doing that dumb shit no more. I love me enough to do it different. And the things that bring me joy now, internally speaking, those gifts are for me. It's for me to work on that and to fortify those things. And when other people step with their shit, now I ain't expecting you to be perfect, but that what you said, what you doing, how you doing that right now, that ain't for me, bro. I'll holler. Family, friends, sister, mama, granddaddy, this, that, and other, ghost or Christmas present, past, the Grinch, this, that, and other, Easter bunny, whoever. Get the fuck away from me. You're done with your shit. Kiki, ha ha, hee hee, if I need to, with you, if that's the situation. But if that ain't it, we done, boo. We done. So, I'm going to wrap this video up. We're going on, goodness, almost a 2-hour mark. I wanted to be open, fun, just kind of give you an insight to me, who I am, what I've been through. And this is just what it is. Okay? The email will be in the description box. Working on Instagram, Facebook page. I'm not sure what I'm going to go with. Probably Instagram. Not sure. That just seems to be the it platform right now. But I will be probably doing a promotion on Facebook on my personal page this weekend, so you may see that. Please like it, share it, comment positively, please, with anybody else that you have in your life, and they need to know what this is. Black girls get molested too. Yes, we do. But black girls also survive. We survive and we do it well. And I'm just a vessel. It's just my job. Shit comes through me. It's my job to make sure to teach it, break it down, put it out there for others to hear it, listen, get the message, get the lesson just like I did. And for that, I thank you for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, click your notification bell. Thank you all. This has been probably one of the healthiest things I've done for myself this year in 2019. I try to make sure that I'm doing, some cathartic things all the time. I started yoga a couple of months ago. I'll, be at it again tonight. Very positive, clears your mind. I'm realizing I even sleep better when I'm getting some of the poses and breathing exercises in. Just love on you. Please do that. And I am going to love on me because right now I'm going to get off of here and I'm going to go grab the end of this petite Syrah. Do that right there. Throw my steak on. I'm out this bitch. This is what healthy, happy, whole, healed looks and sounds like. So for anybody else out there going through it right now, you know, hit me up. Leave a comment. The email will be there. Just put the new email up. It's confessions, 29 confessions blog. I'm sorry, confessions blog 2019. At gmail.com. That'll be up. You don't have to send anything out, particularly if you don't want your comments to be seen, particularly there, because I can't really control the comments on what's seen and what's not, unless I turn all the comments off. I don't want to do that. So you can send me an email there on something you want to do a little bit more privately. Definitely make sure I get back to you, hit you up. Please let me know if there's anything else, confessions of being a woman, that's going to come up you guys want to hear, know about. I mean, we're breaking it all down. I'm talking about 46 years old, with unmarried, single, no kids. I'm a pansexual, sapio woman. Shout out to all my LGBTQ curious, whoever else out there. That's a whole nother topic. Um, Hear about sexual lifestyles, marriages, relationships, ups and downs. I have lupus as a woman. What is that like as a black woman? Being single, independent, having a career that affords me to move and live and travel and stuff of that nature. Um, just it doesn't have to be all dramatic and emotional. Just some stuff of what it's like to be a woman. With somebody's sister's auntie, mama, grandmama. Shit, we are somebody's slut, whore. This, all of this shit that gets thrown at us label wise. But at the end of all that, we're a woman no less, and we're here, and we ain't going no motherfucking where. You got to do a whole lot more in life than what's been done to us to kill this. Because life without women, bitch, it ain't no life. We're givers of life, not takers of life. But we're givers of life. We're nurturers. What I want us to be is fortifiers of life. You get to choose how you want to live your life. You get to choose that. In case we didn't know, you do get to choose how you want to live your life. And for me, healthy, happy, whole, and healed. Bitch, ain't anything else outside of the realm of that. Get thee behind me, Satan. Bitch, there's no room at the end for your ass here. I'm out. Monica B signing off. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a great evening, afternoon. Enjoy yourselves and always uh, make room to confess being a woman. Everybody got some shit that they're going through, and we're going to get through it. Take care.